This is Cold Start.
And we're out here live at Northwest Exotics. We did a guest episode with Tom Fathy a handful of episodes ago, the founder and organizer for Northwest Exotics. And we're actually out here in Seattle, day of.
Beautiful day here in Carillon Point in Kirkland, Washington. Perfect, as if it couldn't be staged any better. All these cars with the marina backdrop. Way off in the distance, you see the Olympic Mountains. It's a really breathtaking scene, and the cars and the eye candy here are just fantastic. A really good variety of things too. We're just going to kind of walk row by row and call out some of the things we see and share it with you and give you a little feeling of the vibes here.
I know it's already 2 minutes past 9. The show is supposed to start at 9, and there's already a lot of people walking around.
Yeah, it's
so
kind
some
of
good
busy.
Action, good energy. But yeah, we're going to do a little walk around. If anything catches our eye, talk a little bit more about it.
That's right. So it looks like we have our Italian cars here all together, all our Ferraris and Lamborghinis kind of all piled in a row, all modern ones. Everything that's sort of representing the new versions, 2019, 2025. Flanked on the inside here, we have a selection of Corvettes, like old Corvettes, the split window and the early 60s models, and this old Jaguar touring car, which is pretty cool looking with the red walls. Not white walls, red walls.
This generation of Jaguar, like, it looks like a bowler hat.
It definitely has that
like
shape.
The greenhouse shape of it.
Absolutely. But it also looks like it'd be really spacious inside. You know, a lot of modern cars that kind of scoop down the backs for that coupe look take away headroom inside, and you're trying to be a passenger vehicle. This thing does it really well. 3.4 liter Jag.
4-door, nice sedan, wood dash.
With the pop-up air intake in the front, that's a really interesting detail. Really nice example of this car. And of course, being a Jag, lots of leather and wood inside, with the Jaguar head on the steering wheel center. Really a beautiful example of this car. Next to the Austin Healey. Just smells like an old Jag.
It really does.
It has that.
The windows aren't even down. I felt the
kind of
aroma
coming off
oozing
of it.
out of it.
That's right. Here's another Carrera RS. These are really special cars, 993 era.
Beautiful. I mean, the wing design on the back is just absolutely incredible. I mean, like, it would put a Subaru STI to shame of how big the wing is.
This is a beautiful example because it's that midnight blue metallic color, which looks so good in the sun. And here in Seattle in the summer, there's really nice light casting off it, really a lot of depth to it. You look at that wing that you were talking about, it's got intakes. They're not obvious unless you look at it from just the right angle, but it's that split-looking 993 wing, but it's got these two inlets on the sides that the GT2 units had, this RS, Carrera RS for the 993 era. And it's function, right, back to German design. With the flares on the rocker panels too, these sort of molded flares that channel the air in a way that was really ahead of its time.
And this example has over 74,000 miles on it, so it's incredible to see that this is a driver as well and being used as intended. That always puts a smile on my face to see cars with miles.
It's probably my favorite version of this, as much as we talked about the 993 Turbo as the perfect Porsche. I think this is an elevation from that. You might trade some of the road usability of that as a daily car for some of the sporty and like track capability of something like this, but it'd be a worthwhile trade. Go back in time a little bit with some more Ferraris, 2009 430 Scud.
That thing's pretty sick. To me, that's like the Schumacher car. I don't know why, but it just like seems like the right era, the right look.
Really nice example of those. Those, and then they had a version of that called the 16M, which was the Spider. It was just really well done in a way that, again, some of those Ferrari convertibles are considered even more special than the hardtops, which is completely contrary to every other kind of car. Convertibles are always the cheap ones that nobody wants to buy anymore, right? I know that's the case with Porsches.
But doesn't Ferrari do that a lot? Like with the 458 and the 488, they did the same thing where like the final iteration was like the performance model with the convertible
top. Yeah, the Aperta, they'll call that.
Fancy terminology.
Right. Speaking of 458, the Speciale, which gives you probably the best sound of any of the modern Ferraris.
I would still argue that a 488 is more beautiful than a 458.
I think that's right, but you could see the lines like where that front hood eventually evolved into like what the 488 Pista has.
The big duct in
with
the
that
front.
big duct and that scoop that's starting to dive. It doesn't go nearly as far down, and there's a grill here, whereas it's completely wide open. Like you could drop probably a small infant through that thing on the Pista. This has a little protection for the kids. 2015 example in this kind of burgundy red color, Rubino.
Yeah, very beautiful color, very mature red.
What's it called? Rubino Micalizzato. Doesn't roll right off the tongue, but you know, it's a pretty color.
I like your Italian.
Molto bene. Mille grazie. F12 Berlinetta tailor-made car in Rosso Bordeaux. A historical F12 paint job. It looks really nice.
So tailor-made, that's kind of like doing like the Ferrari customization where you can do pretty much anything that you want.
Yeah, with the baseball glove leather kind of seats, look really sharp.
I was gonna say the interior, I think, is like the biggest place where you can really see like a tailor-made, and these seats, gorgeous leather color, but yeah, like these thick, big stitches that look very much like the stitching on a baseball or the stitching on a baseball glove.
And the quilted center tunnel there is a really nice additional feature because, like, you know, you lean your knee up against that sometimes when you're driving, and that's a really well thought out thing to do. And after my own heart, they've got just the radar detector stuck to the windshield with a cable hanging off of it instead of having it fully integrated, because that's kind of how I roll sometimes too, so I appreciate that.
Oh, look at the Morgan three-wheeler.
Love it. So this
What a
is
wild
a
car.
997 GT3 Cup car. These things are getting really popular. We have a bunch of friends who have been acquiring these to go vintage racing of all things. It's hard to imagine, but the 997 era Cup cars are now eligible for certain vintage series. They're old enough. This one's a 2012, so this is the 997.2 era GT3 Cup car, and it looks the part. It's up on its air jacks. It's got the BBS wheels, and I think it's a really tasteful version of this car that you see the street cars approaching, like wanting to look this racy, but this has all the right parts.
Yeah, so interesting enough, I know that we looked at a couple of these cars in Monterey, and so the center wheel nut is a lot smaller than you think it would be.
Absolutely.
And then there's this other ring that goes around the wheel that you actually have an Allen key and you kind of attach to the wheel. And we watched some crew members do this and we're like, why is it such a small lug nut? Like, you think that they would have like a big one with the big torque wrench, all that sort of stuff. But anyway, so I was talking to Tim Barber because he was running one of these cars as well.
Yeah.
And I asked him, like, why do they have such a small wheel nut?
Right, with
Like,
that
why
adapter.
Why wouldn't it just be a big nut? And he's like, well, like, if there's vibrations or things like that with that big nut, if it starts to back off, there's nothing you can do to keep it tighter.
Right.
And so with this system, it actually is more secure, it's safer, because you don't have just one big nut attached to the wheel. There's two components to it, so it actually absorbs some of that vibration with that other ring.
That makes
so
a lot
this
of
is a more
sense.
secure thing, less likely that you have a wheel nut come off. Like with the sprint car, massive wheel lugs on that thing.
Right.
And Tim, like, he has to torque it a bunch of times, wire ties, pins, all this sort of stuff, because if you have a wheel coming loose,
Oh, you're in bad shape.
it's donezo. With this, there's a little bit more flexibility with that, so that was the reason behind that design.
That's really
Which
smart.
I was like, cool, awesome.
Yeah.
I got to hear the engineering background of it.
Well, I know in some of these cars, and I wonder if they do it with this era of Cup cars, some of the wheel nuts, they thread toward the front of the car so that the wheel nut won't loosen up.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
So I wonder if this has the reverse threading on one side the way those other cars do, in
It's-
addition to this double locking mechanism.
It's interesting because, yeah, like, it's like, oh, it's torque to the front or torque to the rear, because then in some instances, like with, I think, the Lamborghini Super Trofeos, it's the opposite.
Right.
So it's always different. And I'm like, oh man, if I had to be like a mechanic or some dude that was like responsible for torquing the wheels, having things be so different on every single vehicle would be such a nightmare.
Keeping that all straight, right?
All right, now this is way cooler. So over in this corner, we had a couple Porsche race cars.
Yeah.
This one, more vintage.
Yeah, IMSA car.
Looks like it came fresh from Monterey.
It kind of does. It looks like it was just down there with the 935 sort of inspired wheel on the 964-ish era body. I like those wheels a lot too. Those things have started to pop a lot on more modern cars. This sort of funnel almost style design with the big center lock nut on it.
The
and
turbo
sort of
fans.
Turbo fan kind
It's
of
like
vibes.
a wheel cover, but it still has like the BBS design on it. Then it's got the fins around, so it's supposed to be better cooling for the brakes, or, you know, reducing turbulent air or channeling air in certain directions. But
And I love that functional design, right? It looks cool, but it's all there for a reason, right? Because it helps to radiate that heat out from the brakes to help cool them off.
no, and I
Really.
love this era of race car. This would have been the 80s, early 80s.
This late 80s, actually.
Late 80s?
Yeah, because it's the 935 style, like extra long tail wing. But if you look at the body, it's got that 964 lines on it. Like you
Right,
can imagine
right.
that rear deck lid lifting up like the spoilers do on some of those models. And you can see the front fenders, right, have that amount of rise on them, the kind of like eyebrows almost of the car, if you will, compared to a 993, which are a little bit more smooth.
Yeah, no, because I mean, like, this era of race cars is so awesome because it's like, yeah, you can see the stock car
Right.
underneath the big over fenders. I mean, they just basically took the stock chassis and just like bolted stuff onto it of massive fenders, front flares, the rear wing, all that sort of stuff. Love this generation.
Yeah, it gives it definitely that 959 look with all the flares on the rear fenders.
Yeah, you
Gives
can
it
see
the-
that 964 rear end like hiding underneath there.
Right, with that 935 style wing sort of tacked onto the back of the 964 looking back. Really a nice example of kind of like a multi-generational looking race car from Porsche. Air-cooled. The dual center exhaust tips, I don't think was how that was originally. They must have done some work to add that to it, but it looks appropriate.
And then you got the little tiny exhaust on the outside.
Right.
I'm assuming would be for like the turbo dumps.
Yeah.
So, I mean, these cars would be so much fun to race of how much horsepower they were making, and back in the era where there wasn't so much sophistication of how boost was delivered. So, I mean, it was a handful. It was a dynamic driving
It was kind of part of the charms of the car. And the Zeus connectors all along the back quarter panels.
And this one's in beautiful condition. I mean, like, this looks like this went under a full restoration and absolutely gorgeous.
Right, Bilstein shock stickers right on the front there. Really nice.
Now, speaking of another vehicle with some bodywork slapped onto it and a massive rear wing, Ford, yes, Ford, the Ford, brought out one of their GTDs. It's actually called the Spirit of America. So it's got American stripes down it, but a lovely Mustang GTD. We saw a couple of these down in Laguna. I mean, what awesome show-stomping cars, and great to see another one.
Yeah, so we're standing by the Mustang GTD we started talking about before. And it's the whole package, you know, it's sitting on 20s and looks good doing it. The
I
wheel
know, massive
design.
aero. I mean, this car is unbelievable. We talked about a little bit of the Monterey episode of the inboard rear suspension, which has a viewing glass so that you can see it operate.
The viewing window, yeah. It's really nicely designed. You can see the ducting on the wheel arches. Again, it's functional, but looks the business.
Aggressive.
Those intakes on the hood in the front, black on white in this car with the two red and blue stripes down the middle. It looks like America, but it's done in a tasteful way, which might be at odds with that a little bit. Just really cool, and carbon details around the rocker panels and the rear flares.
And it's been a while
Front
since
splitter.
Ford has made kind of a marquee car like this,
Yeah.
which this one is very conveniently placed right next to a modern day Ford GT, which was the last time that Ford kind of took a big swing at going after the quote exotics market, right? The Ford GTD is trying to go after the Porsche GT3 RS, and obviously the Ford GT trying to enter into that supercar market. Now, an interesting thing about Ford GTs, I don't know if you know this, but every time that I see one of these, as they're sitting, they kind of seem like they sit a little high, right?
Right,
Like,
yeah.
I would kind of want it to be lower.
Yeah, if
And
you
the-
look at those wheel arches, like there's a pretty good gap between where that tire ends and the fender begins.
And the Ford GT in general is a gorgeous car. And I mean, like, what they did with the technology, it is disappointing it had a V6 in it, but for the racing rules, it worked out, and that's what kind of made this car. But yeah, the ride height, you think like, oh, it'd be a little bit more slammed. And it's like, I've seen photos of these cars slammed before. Like, I know that there's a setting, and there is, right? You put them into race mode, the rear wing rises up from the rear, and the car just drops. And I mean, it drops pretty rapidly to the ground. Now, the interesting thing, I believe they use magnets in the suspension.
Oh, right?
And that's what holds the car down.
No
and so
kidding.
when you come out of race mode, the car basically bounces up. It's very dramatic
That's
and
really
instantaneous of how it transitions. Now, the reason why I talk about, like, every time I see one sitting, I'm like, God, why isn't it in race mode? Why wouldn't you put it in race mode if you're showing it at a car show and slam it to the ground? That's where it looks the most aggressive.
Yeah, I'd kind of want to do that.
Well, the thing is, once you turn the car off, the magnets turn off, and the suspension, boom, bumps right back up.
Electromagnets, yeah.
And
Wow,
so
that's super cool, but
you can't
can't
basically
just slam
stunt
it.
on the haters with your Ford GT because you can't have it in full race mode with it off.
would have been cooler if they did. And then completely shift the other way, 1936 Packard Mulholland Speedster. So when I lived in LA as a kid, I lived on Mulholland Drive. And the name of that road is so well known, not just because of that, the movie that came out a few years ago, the David Lynch movie, but because Mulholland was the canyon between Topanga and Malibu and the valley where people used to race cars through those canyons. Like Mulholland Speedster meant this thing, a car that was designed for carving the canyons up there. And it's sketchy as hell and it's fun to drive and people go like full on racing out there. So can you imagine this thing doing that?
So this was built by Troy Ladd to be America's most beautiful roadster. So now looking at this is late 30s.
Right.
This does have, I think, the epitome of roadster styling. Big swooping lines, simplistic. There's not a hard edge on it. Everything flows.
Just rounded off.
It looks aero, right?
It does. And look at this. I'm counting plugs. I'm like, this is a V12, right? And yeah, sure enough, it's this
flathead
sick
V12.
Flathead V12 with the fenders and the flares and the giant white walls on it. Pretty sick. 2000 Z8 right next to it.
The Z8s are such a wild car within the BMW lineup. Like, they've turned into such collectibles. They bring insane money and beautiful, beautiful cars. I mean, they basically look like a Z3 Roadster concept car.
Absolutely. You know, I really feel like I slept on this. There was an opportunity. I remember seeing one in the dealership at Santa Monica BMW. It was the Alpina model, and it was brand new, but it was several years old, so it had been sitting in their dealership. And I think they wanted 125 for it.
And these two are, to our knowledge, the only cars that have neon taillights.
Neon taillights, that's right. We have two different looking lens covers, sort of the
one of them has the
red.
amber red, one of them's
This
red,
is all red.
so maybe one of these is a Euro model.
Or maybe one of them had their neon replaced because it's so hard to find that. But yeah, can you imagine neon taillights? What a strange thing to put on a car, but it's one of those things too, like they don't get hot, like with other, incandescent bulbs. They don't heat up, but they look as bright as anything, right? Even in the daytime, you could see neon glowing in the daytime just the same.
Well, and you can see, like, as you get up closer and you're looking in, like, you can see the neon tubes inside the taillight, which is so cool. And
Such a cool detail.
The interior styling is gorgeous and beautiful. Yesterday, at a pre-party for the Northwest Exotics event that we're at today, that was my first time ever seeing a BMW 507, one of the original BMW Roadsters, really, really early on in, like, the lineage of BMWs. And the Z8 is that, like, modern continuation. Like, looking at the interior of the Z8, similar sort of like dash display, the center console, how the instrument cluster is in the center. It's not behind the steering wheel like you're normally used to.
That's right.
That's that throwback to that old kind of 507 era. Same thing with that side vents on that front fender.
Yes.
Very 507-esque.
Functional side vents. Just the right amount of chrome on the mirror caps, on the door handles, on that side vent to give you that throwback to the 507. This one's got the Alpina wheels and a signature on the console that I can't quite make out, but
not too sure who that would be.
They kept saying it was the James Bond car. Maybe it was like Pierce Brosnan, but it doesn't look like it says that. So we'll have to ask around.
But absolutely gorgeous car. I mean, these cars are iconic, and I think that their design is timeless, and there's a reason why they bring such a premium in the marketplace. So it's beautiful to see two of them here, one of them with the Alpina kind of decked out wheels, and the other one with those more, I guess, base model wheels.
Yeah, and I guess there is a difference between those taillights. The all red ones are still the original neon. The ones with the amber inserts are aftermarket replacements that are no longer neon because those parts are apparently so hard to get. So some mods done, but just for purposes of function. And this is a car that it's completely decked out in the red leather interior, but it just looks the part. Some of these cars, it looks a little garish, a little overdone, you see that, but the red with the black touches, it's so beautiful. It really makes me want one of these cars.
Yeah, no, awesome, awesome cars. And I think they still had they had the same engine as the E39 M5, so it had that V8 under the hood.
Yeah,
really nice combination, right? Manual transmission, V8 under the hood, drop top experience, timeless design. And then these two Z8s are very well accompanied by an original BMW M1. So this is the start of M. I mean, this is like holy mecca for BMW people to be able to see an M1 in person.
The origin of this, right? So starting in '81, this first M1 car that started the whole lineage of the M cars to follow, they only made 399 of these for the street, and apparently this is one of the best preserved and documented ones from that era. It says that they have every single piece of paper and every document from its ownership onward, which is just fantastic.
And this is such an awesome color too. It's kind of like this deep blue purple. I don't really know how to describe it.
Like a navy blue, but like purpley underneath it.
And there's not a metallic in the paint. It's a very subtle color, and in a lot of lighting, it almost looks black. And I mean, we talked about BMW with their blacks and 5 different variations of black of different kind of colors that come out through.
And I gotta say, I really enjoy that gigantic car phone throwback from the 80s that happens to be in this car too. You know, that was added after the fact.
Oh, of course. I mean, a car of this luxury and everything like that, and BMW built this car to go racing. This was the start of their motorsport division within BMW, and a way to like really set that precedent of getting involved in motorsports. Obviously, BMW was involved in motorsports before the existence of the M1, but this really solidified their intention to want to build race cars.
And those dual BMW rondelles on the 2 rear corners just are so iconic to the M1, and actually what a good look, I gotta say. I don't know why they've never brought that back to any future model. I mean, it wouldn't have the same effect, but it's a cool look.
Right, it's such an interesting thing to do. Like, why would you need 2 emblems on the back of your car? Like, there's no reason to do that.
Right.
The only thing I can think of is like the styling of the rear end, the emblem in its original sizing would have been too large to fit in the center of the vehicle. So they're like, oh, on the sides where it kind of like swoops up a little bit, like the emblems can fit in there.
And there's these 2 little openings on the back of the deck lid, and it kind of makes you wonder, was that an insert for a spoiler for the race cars? And they just don't have it on the street car, or is that
it might
ventilation?
Be a drainage.
Drainage? It
for
could
water?
Be, it's hard to know, right? Because there's a big flat deck on the back of these things, so it could very well be for drainage.
Just get that rainwater out of there so you don't have that swimming pool like some of the Corvette owners nowadays start to get with the C8s.
Absolutely. Talk about a wild swing in a different direction. So you have the 1989 Peugeot 205 GTI, 1.9 liter car in black, kind of like that proto hot hatch kind of a look, except I don't know there's anything really hot about it. I don't think it had a whole lot of power, but it looks like a really well preserved example.
Yeah, these cars are so cool. I mean, like, we talk about hot hatches in America, and Americans love hot hatches just simply because we didn't really get a lot of hatchbacks. When we think about hatchbacks, we think about shitty, cheap, economy, fuel-efficient commuter boxes, right, for the most part. But like, this is like an iconic piece of history once again, and like a car that went racing, and there was racing variations of this car, and this is the street version, and a lot of teenagers having a lot of fun in France in one of these things.
Absolutely, with the phone dial wheels. And
the great interior, I mean, like,
the
you got
interior
like
with
the
sports stripes.
inserts.
Yeah, cloth inserts with the sports stripes down at the GTI 3-spoke wheel. It looks like this thing's meant for business, not just for, you know, picking up groceries at the little shop we have in France for this Peugeot. Sometimes you see a car, you just the bodywork, you know something special is going on there, with the Zeus connector on the outside, the exposed rivets all over the body, the vents all up and down the side flares and on the hood. You know, this car is made for business.
That's what always makes like vintage cars so enjoyable to look at, is like you can see the craftsmanship, you can see like the engineering thought process and how they built them and how they assembled them.
So this old Jaguar, I'm not entirely sure what model this was, but it appears to be something from, if I had to guess, in the 60s. I wish I had more information. Harness belts, right-hand drive. Very cool car. British Racing Green, of course.
And then the juxtaposition of now some of the more modern hypercars, supercars. So this show, I would say, like, in general, if there's any sort of like encompassing factor, I'm amazed of the diversity of the vehicles here. I mean, we talked about vintage cars, we're looking at modern, a LaFerrari, an SP3 Ferrari, you know, unbelievable cars. But then also we looked at vintage, we looked at race cars, we have the F1 car here, a modern race car. The diversification of this show is just absolutely unbelievable, and you can tell that putting on this show, it's just for the love of cars in general, and whatever that takes its shape of. There's people that enjoy those vintage cars, the kind of one-of-ones that have this history to them, or, you know, the modern hypercars that cost millions of dollars and have options up the wazoo, or some of those race cars. I mean, this show really has it all, and you can tell that they hand select the best of the best. Each and every car that's here is here for a reason. It has a story. I like that there was placards in front of each one of the cars telling you, hey, this is the significance of this car, or maybe very specifically. The one that is here, it has a story, and there's something that they want to share about
Seeing
it.
them presented really well together. Yeah, there's some of these interesting juxtapositions, cars together. You're not really sure what the connections might be, but that's cool for diversity. And then these other ones where you really see the generations, the evolution of some of these cars, from the 70th anniversary Ferrari LaFerrari to the Daytona SP3 to a complete like record scratch moment, the 250 GT and the Nart Spider 67, both in that bright yellow from the Ferrari racing history that's so iconic. People think of Ferrari as red, but it's that yellow color that they're so well known for their racing cars and their racing team.
Yeah, and it's funny that like I think more of the modern generation is gravitated towards, you know, the SP3, the Ferrari LaFerrari. There's also McLaren Senna here. There's more people around those cars rather than the 1960 250 GT Berlinetta Competizione.
Right.
Which that car, right, the 250 is probably the most expensive car in this parking lot, but not that many people would know about that, right? There's a little bit more history, there's a little bit more knowledge required to appreciate what this Ferrari represents in the lineage, where an SP3, that's a showstopper, right? That's on the cover of magazines nowadays.
It looks
Kids
wild.
Can get that a little bit
it looks
more.
fast standing still. This car looks like a throwback for the people who don't know. And again, it's not that kind of prototypical Ferrari red. It's that yellow car with beautiful restoration and from the 60s with the license plate on the back that says Enzo, which is also appropriate for a car like this. And it's got, you know, registration and it's got plates on it. This is a car that's getting driven, which is fantastic. We love to see that here.
Unbelievable. No, this 250 is absolutely gorgeous, and it's like, I don't think I've been a part of a car show quite like this, of the hand-picked nature of it, the curation, right? I think that's a great terminology for this, is curating each and every car that's here, what it represents, and also one that's curated in such a manner that hits kind of all the different corners of car culture. There's so many different facets, there's so many different subcultures within the car community.
You got the 72 Ferrari Daytona over there. For the longest time, those were like, before LaFerrari, before all these modern ones, that was the one that was the most sought out. I remember in my kind of growing up around cars days, looking in the DuPont registry, looking in Rob Report, those Daytonas were always the most expensive, the most sought after. And it was in that period when they were maybe like 10, 15 years old, right? They were just getting to start to be appreciated and they just took off. I love seeing the reaction on people's faces too when they see the thing that's kind of their holy grail, their car that they've wanted to see in person, and then there's one and the look on their face, or they raise their hand, oh, they hear the horn on the M1.
What a great sounding horn.
Wow, just
like,
so
almost sounds like a
Euro.
Countach horn.
Totally.
Kind of that same like high pitch.
Very European, very like Northern Italy kind of a vibe, or like Southern Switzerland kind of vibes.
Sounds like scusi in a horn.
Mi scusi, mi scusi.
And we're back in the studio after a lovely afternoon in Carillon Point up in the Pacific Northwest of Washington for the Northwest Exotics Car Show.
What a good time it was. I mean, the weather was beautiful, the landscape and the scenery was amazing, and the cars. What a nice selection of cars, carefully curated, really interesting. Every time you turned, there was something a little different. It wasn't just an entire row of all the same kind of cars like a lot of car shows have.
Yeah, I was so blown away, like going into that event and after talking with Tom on the show, my expectations were completely blown out of the waters. I thought it was going to be such a smaller event. There was so many people that came out. I mean, it was a gorgeous day up in Washington, I think in the high 80s, which that drew a lot more people out and about, but massive crowds, great people, great conversations, great cars. I mean, that's what makes a car event so phenomenal, is a mixture of all those things.
It was a really good diversity of different kinds of cars from different eras, you know, not just a lot of stuff you can go buy off the showroom floor, but things that are collector cars that people have had for a long time, have changed hands. These are cherished cars that people put a lot of time and energy and thought into. And so it was really cool to see those all brought together. And, you know, the colors and just the overall sights of the day. It was just a good scene. Everybody was out there having a good time, and it was really a good turnout.
So I can't recommend enough, if you live up in the Pacific Northwest area, to look up Northwest Exotics on social media. Stay in touch. Find out when their next event is going to be, and go and check it out. It's an unbelievable event. They bring out some unbelievable cars, very much a curated showing of vehicles. Unbelievable. So look out for the next one.
Yeah, they don't run as often as some of the other local car shows up in the Northwest, so you're going to have to make a special date an appointment to come to this thing next time it's out, but it'll be more than worthwhile. It's just unlike anything else that happens in the area. It punches way above its weight.
Well, we can't thank Tom Fathy enough for inviting us up for a lovely afternoon up in Washington. Being able to show the F1 car was unbelievable, and sharing that experience with so many people on the day, it's unforgettable. It's going to be a memory for a long time. So thanks to him. Thanks for the team of Northwest Exotics for putting on such a phenomenal event.
Thanks for having us as a co-sponsor of this event. We're super proud to have the name Cold Start on this thing, and it was a really good time out there.
Well, thanks for listening. This has been Cold Start.